What if I told you that the place keeping you trapped isn't your job, your past, or even other people? It's your own mind. Every single day, you spend thousands of moments living inside conversations that never happened, replaying memories that can never be changed, and worrying about futures that may never exist. But here's the disturbing part. Your brain believes this is helping you survive. In reality, it might be stealing your entire life. So why can't you stop thinking? Why does your mind refuse to stay in the present, even when you desperately want peace? And what if the voice inside your head isn't actually telling you the truth? Today, we're going to explore the hidden psychology of why you can't stop living inside your head. Once you understand it, you may never think the same way again. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the loudest place in the world isn't outside? It's inside your own mind. You're walking to work, but you're replaying an awkward conversation from 3 years ago. You're lying in bed, yet somehow you're already imagining everything that could go wrong tomorrow. You're eating dinner with your family, but mentally, you're somewhere else entirely. The strange thing is, most people don't even notice when they've left the present. Their body stays here, but their attention travels somewhere else. A memory, a fantasy, a fear, a possibility. It happens so naturally that it almost feels normal. But why? Why does the human mind spend so much time inside itself? The answer begins hundreds of thousands of years ago, long before smartphones, before cities, before civilization itself. Our ancestors survived because they could imagine the future. Imagine you're living in a prehistoric world. You hear a sound coming from the bushes. You don't know if it's just the wind or a hungry predator. The person who imagined the worst was often the one who stayed alive. Over thousands of generations, the human brain became an incredible prediction machine. It learned to constantly ask, what if? What if danger is coming? What if food runs out? What if something goes wrong? This ability helped our species survive. But evolution has a strange habit. It solves old problems while creating new ones. Today, you're probably not worried about a tiger hiding behind a tree. Instead, your brain asks different questions. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I embarrass myself? What if I never become successful? The threats changed. The brain didn't. It still treats uncertainty like danger. That's why a simple email can make your heart race. A delayed text message can feel like rejection. One small mistake can replay in your mind for weeks. From the outside, nothing dangerous is happening. But inside your head, your survival system has already declared an emergency. Your heart beats faster. Your breathing changes. Stress hormones begin to rise. Not because reality is dangerous, but because your imagination made it feel real. Your brain doesn't always react to what's happening. It reacts to what it believes could happen. And that's where many people become trapped, not in reality, but in endless possibilities. The mind starts creating imaginary conversations, imaginary failures, imaginary disasters. One thought becomes another, then another, until hours have passed without you noticing. And here's what's fascinating. The brain doesn't just wander because it's afraid. Sometimes it wanders because reality feels uncomfortable. Life is uncertain. People disappoint us. Dreams take time. Success is slow. Inside your imagination, everything moves faster. You become the person who says the perfect words. You win every argument. You fix every mistake. You imagine the life you wish you already had. For a few moments, your mind creates a world where everything finally makes sense. And honestly, that feels good. Maybe too good. Because every time your imagination becomes more comforting than reality, your brain learns something dangerous. It learns that escaping feels easier than living. And without realizing it, you begin spending less time experiencing your life and more time thinking about it. The question isn't whether your mind wanders. Everyone's does. The real question is, when does imagination stop being a tool and quietly become a prison? Because once that happens, the hardest place to escape is your own mind. If living inside your head feels so exhausting, why doesn't your brain simply stop? Because your brain isn't trying to make you happy. It's trying to keep you alive. And to your brain, certainty feels safe. Uncertainty feels dangerous. That's why, Whenever something is unresolved, your mind keeps returning to it. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. It's the tendency for unfinished situations to stay active in your mind. Have you ever noticed how you forget hundreds of ordinary days, but one embarrassing mistake can stay with you for years? Or how one unanswered message can distract you more than 20 completed conversations? That's your brain searching for closure. It keeps reopening unfinished mental tabs, hoping to finally solve them. The problem is, some questions don't have immediate answers, so your mind keeps searching anyway. What if I had said something different? What if I chose the wrong career? What if they secretly dislike me? What if everything falls apart? These questions don't end because there is no perfect answer, only endless possibilities. And every possibility creates another thought, then another, until you're no longer thinking. You're trapped in a loop. This is where overthinking quietly begins. Most people believe they overthink because they care too much, but that's only part of the story. Often, overthinking is actually an attempt to gain control. If you think long enough, maybe you'll avoid failure. If you analyze every possibility, maybe nothing bad will happen. If you replay the past enough times, maybe you'll finally change it. But here's the paradox. The more control you seek through thinking, the less control you actually feel. Because life can never be completely predicted. Your brain hates that. It keeps asking for certainty in a world that cannot provide it. And so, it keeps thinking something else. Makes this cycle even stronger. Your identity. Over time, many people begin believing, I am an overthinker. I've always been like this. This is just who I am. Once your brain accepts that story, it starts looking for evidence to prove it true. Every anxious thought becomes confirmation. Every sleepless night becomes proof. Every difficult decision reinforces the identity. Without realizing it, you're no longer just experiencing overthinking. You're becoming the person who expects to overthink. Psychologists call this a self-reinforcing belief. The stories you repeatedly tell yourself slowly become the lens through which you experience reality. But perhaps the biggest trap of all is something psychologists call rumination. Rumination isn't problem-solving. It only feels like it. Problem-solving moves toward action. Rumination moves in circles. Imagine sitting in a rocking chair. You're moving constantly, but you're going nowhere. That's what rumination feels like. Hours of thinking, zero progress. The brain mistakes mental activity for productivity. It convinces you that if you just think a little longer, you'll finally feel better. Yet somehow, you never do. Instead, your thoughts become louder, faster, more convincing, until they begin sounding like facts. But thoughts are not facts. They are simply mental events. They come, they go, and they are often wrong. One negative thought can create an emotion. That emotion creates another thought, which strengthens the emotion. And suddenly, you've built an entire reality out of assumptions, without a single piece of actual evidence. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and leave with completely different conclusions. One sees rejection, the other sees a lesson. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. Reality didn't change. The story inside their minds did. And maybe that's the most powerful realization of all. The quality of your life depends less on what happens to you and more on the meaning your mind assigns to it. But if that's true, can you ever escape the endless voice inside your head? Or are you destined to spend your entire life listening to it? The answer. So, if the goal isn't to silence your mind, what is it? The answer begins with one simple realization. You are not the voice inside your head. You are the one listening to it. That may sound like a small difference, but it changes everything. Imagine you're standing on the side of a busy highway. Hundreds of cars rush past every minute. You notice them, but you don't chase every single one. Your thoughts work the same way. They arrive, they leave. The problem begins when you climb into every passing thought and let it decide where your life goes. A single worry becomes an hour of anxiety. One small mistake becomes proof that you're not good enough. One imagined future becomes today's reality, not because it happened, but because your mind treated it as true. Mindfulness researchers have found that simply noticing a thought as a thought, not a fact, can reduce its emotional grip. This doesn't erase difficult emotions, but it creates space to respond instead of reacting automatically. That's why the healthiest minds aren't the ones with the fewest thoughts. They're the ones that know which thoughts deserve attention. Think about the sky. Clouds appear every single day. Some are bright, some are dark, some bring storms. But the sky never becomes the clouds. Your awareness is the sky. Your thoughts are the clouds. They pass, whether you hold on to them or not. For years, you may have believed that peace would come once your mind became quiet. But perhaps peace was never the absence of thought. Perhaps it's the freedom to let thoughts come without letting them control you. Because life isn't happening inside tomorrow's worries. It isn't hiding inside yesterday's regrets. It's happening right now, in the breath you almost ignored, in the conversation you nearly missed, in the sunset your mind was too busy to notice. One day, you'll realize that the moments you were waiting for were quietly passing while you were lost inside your own head. So the next time your mind pulls you into another imaginary argument, another impossible future, or another endless loop of what if, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this thought helping me live, or only helping me worry? Because your mind will always create stories. That's what it was designed to do. But you get to decide which stories become your life. And maybe the greatest freedom isn't escaping your mind. It's finally learning that you don't have to believe every thought that passes through it. Because the moment you stop living inside your head is the moment you truly begin living your life.